solidly. They had a very good early game, and it was their transition to the mid game that really hurt them. G2 late game, it's been good. The early game up and down. The mid game has been the big question mark.
Yeah, and we say the early game's been up and down. It's been up 1.5 times.
Those are the times I remember, Jack.
Of the 8 games, and that really has been their biggest weakness. And we talk about whether or not they can have the right mentality, because this is a team that really felt like they imploded last year in the World's group stage, finishing 1-5. And after their start, you may have thought that that could have happened again, but I feel like this G2 team is much stronger mentally than they used to be. And obviously, it's incredibly difficult to start off your day with SK Telecom T1, but they got to do their best to keep level head, and I think they can do it.
Well, I think so as well, but here's champ select between these two sides. Lots of jungle bans already. LeBlanc just started for SKT T1, but Ivan, Lee Sin, and Graves all taken out as well.
Heavy jungle focus, and this is interesting. We've seen a little bit of a decrease actually in the Lulu Karma bans, and people are more okay with just trading them away. So heavy jungle bans right here.
Very surprised to see the Fizz, the final ban on blue side. Fizz jumped really in priority as a flex pick yesterday. 3 early rotation Fizzes flexing to mid against Syndra, the top lane matchups we know all about. All of them victories. It's been a very popular pick this tournament. And now it makes me wonder about if the Twitch will be banned. It won't. And Twitch has been consistently banned against SKT, because you could try banning all the shielding supports, but then there's still Tahm Kench, and SKT will blind pick Twitch very often.
Yeah, with Lulu and Karma up, that's still a possibility. They can pick the Lulu with the Karma, or they can even put Lulu mid lane and Nami bottom lane, so a very real flex for SKT. That being said, all of those jungle bans, I agree with the Fizz ban in this instance, because I think G2 may have even picked it right here, and it's not something you necessarily want to first pick with all the shielders still available.
Well, we'll see what happens here. Lulu, first pick for SKT, that's kind of obvious. Syndra was G2's last ban, so taking that one away is kind of interesting. We're expecting Karma, but the likes of Cannon, the likes of Rumble were left open. They'll actually first pick Orianna, though.
Seeing it this early in the draft is surprising. SK Telecom was not playing Orianna with a lot of their Twitch-centric hyper carry drafts. Anyway, obviously a very famous pick for Faker, but they showed a lot of top laners before locking in the Orianna. It's a Perkz comfort pick, and it could certainly still be double shielding from G2.
Yeah, and if they end up locking in this Karma in the next 4 or 5 seconds, it does give them most likely 2 pushing lanes, but they opt not to. Leave the door open for SKT to take it here. And
it feels like insanity, because the one team you don't want to leave up double support, Karma and Lulu flex picks to, is SK Telecom, because Bang is proven on the Twitch. He even has played the Kog'Maw so far this tournament. So we were talking about them, we were like, okay, maybe against TSM you can leave up Lulu and Karma, but against this team in particular, it seems like a gambit too far.
Yeah, and it feels a little bit like madness. They blind picked both solo laners as a red side team against SKT, who have some of the deepest solo lane champion pools. Guaranteed they're walking into mostly 2 counter picks. They banned away the one they were most fearful of in the Syndra, but still, what's Faker gonna have ready?
And look, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. The only reason you blind pick in the first round both your champions is because you feel like you have a practice strategy that can go against the field. Kennen wins basically every top lane matchup. Orianna usually may not have pressure, but can get through lanes. But it seems like a huge gambit if we're giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Especially looking at the SKT TSM game yesterday, where Huni destroyed Hauntzer's Kennen top lane. Different day, different players, different draft, but still pretty risky for G2.
You see the first 3 picks from SKT and you're like, all right, well, I don't even know what could fill out a draft to take it down. It's already Twitch being so powerful, so often blind picked without any sort of respect for Caitlyn's and other powerful bot lanes. G2 will respond most likely, I think they already have, with the Karma. So they do have 1 shielding support. But you look at SKT's side and you're like, it's not quite blind pick territory, but it's not far away from it. Doesn't really feel like they were hurt by the bans or pickaways at all.
I mean, both teams have actually quite a lot of protection for a hyper carry here. SKT, they've already taken theirs in the Twitch, but I think they took Kennen kind of as a risk assessment, saying that they won't take Karma. They get it back here, but what they maybe give up could hurt. Elise actually now going to get banned by G2, so starting to attack more junglers from Peanut.
Yeah, and that's actually the coolest thing about this draft. As many risks as G2 have been taking, and as much as SK Telecom look like they're getting blind picked, something where they're not getting it is in the jungle position. Quite obviously, that's now 3 jungle bans by G2 alone to push Peanut down in this pool.
Makes you wonder if it's going to push to, say, the Rengar. That was a kind of a very fluctuating pick for Peanut. It was just one of his lowest win rates. He dropped 4 or 5 games with it during the regular season. And it's also, of course, a slower ramp-up level 6 jungler that suits Trick's style, because he's very often a level 6 jungler himself.
And even that gets banned away. So, I mean, I think we can see where G2 is going here. I think they want Caitlyn and Nunu as their 2 picks is what I'm most likely expecting. So I would not be surprised to see a Caitlyn ban from SK Telecom right here, but they're discussing which carry they're most fearful of with the double shields and a potential Nunu.
Just saw Koma talking to Bank, so I think he's maybe discussing potential matchups there. There's Caitlyn, though, exactly as you kind of expected. And if that was G2's plan, all right, they have to pivot very quickly here in the draft.
And here's actually something we didn't track. They didn't get a ban off for Kha'Zix, so scratch the Nunu thing. They're still going to have a hyper carry, but getting Kha'Zix as a denial pick is much higher value than picking Nunu here.
And now you wonder where Peanut will go, because he had a pretty narrow pull throughout the course of LCK Spring. He played maybe 6 junglers all season, and 4 with any seriousness. All of them accounted for in this situation. You might start wondering where he'll go.
Yeah, we call it a narrow pool, but I mean, that's just the jungle pool.
Sure.
Was Peanut's pool, and at this point, you're almost beginning to reach outside of that. We saw some, random Zac stuff from certain players, but what's Peanut's pocket pick going to be?
He's a fighter. He's a skirmisher. We saw his attempt at an Ivern game, and it left a lot to be desired. It was very desperate from the level of play we've seen on other champions.
I can see Olaf here, because they have the Lulu. I was trying to think of when you get pinched or if you have weird jungle pools, what could you pull out? And Peanut had some tremendous Olaf games internationally at Worlds last year, especially when you have the haste of something
and
like
he debuted at Worlds, if you remember, Jack. We finally saw it very late in that tournament. Never played it this year, never played it before Worlds. So certainly, it's going way back in history with Peanut. And for once, he's not going to be on a comfort like this in this tournament. Plus, we get Faker on Ahri, which makes you pumped, and it is that Ahri versus Orianna skill matchup in the middle.
And that's the thing, really safe, very respectful from SKT here with something like the Ahri. We could also flex the cannon, which is the other thing I was trying to get in before.
Oh, man.
It could be AD cannon for Sven. I mean, we've seen Europe do it quite a lot. Looks like it is last pick Shen for Expect.
Oh, man, that's something right there.
Jack, are you all right there? You need a second.
I don't like it at all right now. And obviously, it could work and you can be called a fool later, but you have the Karma Orianna, so generally speaking, you want to set that up for a really good scaling marksman. Yes, some of them were banned away, but you can still even put Ashe with that and have strong laning phases. The Kennen doesn't guaranteed win that lane against the Twitch, and now they don't have the scaling with which to throw the shields onto.
Now, if it was Gigabyte Marines, you'd go glass half full with Levi's Kha'Zix, but giving Trick the same respect that he can be a secondary carry with all that shielding is certainly not something that really behooves you, given what he's shown in the tournament. Plus, Shen, just as a pick, if you count his win rate in play-ins and the main event here, or in the group stages, sorry, it is 25%, so it is very much on the lower end. He can be pushed in hilariously by Galio.
And it is a comfort pick for Expect, so maybe the thought is here, giving Kennen to Expect just doesn't feel like a strategy that you really want to employ, so maybe they take it because they need to deny away from SKT, but Sven's like, all right, I guess I'm playing this now. I mean, a lot of interesting stuff in this draft. I think SKT keeping it simple, which I think is what you expected, Papa Smithy. G2 mixing it up a bit, but maybe too much.
Yeah, I mean, what was I expecting? Kennen flex pick for a European LCS team. Of course they're going to do it. And they did, in a sense, trick SKT to thinking they're having Galio versus Kennen, but it's not like Galio versus Shen is magically a terrible match for Galio.
I know this is a terrible pun for a G2 game, but Who Trick 2 may actually be the sub-story of this game, because they have certainly flexed, they have surprised, but where it's left up is ultra comfort for SKT outside if G2 can actually attack Peanut, who is not on comfort on the Olaf.
Well, we'll have to see what happens when we're out onto the roof for the first time here in the MSI group stage, day number 5. Not many games left to play for a lot of these teams. G2 will face SKT one more time. It looked okay for the first 10-15, and then, as very typical for SKT games, it goes downhill quickly.
I mean, you say okay, I think it was good. Honestly, it was the first game of the tournament. SKT came in already kind of crowned champions of the mid-season invitational, and G2 took it to them until they made a big macro mistake in the mid-game, which lost them all their early reward.
And the start is already better for SKT in this game.
That's true.
Than it was in the first game of the tournament. Faker, as Orianna, was in the brush that Perkz ended up putting his Orianna ball in, so no first blood pre-1 minute in this one. And in that particular game, G2 did still get demolished in the mid-game, and that's one of the most devastating things that can happen to a team, have that good start and then take some very bad map plays, because then everyone feels bad about the strat.
Well, we'll see what happens here. Sven on the cannon this time around. Have to double check if he's played in the EULCS, but of course you look at Reckless in that region, there are a ton of players on that champion.
It's fun to think about and start theory crafting. Seeing more Galio, and you're like, okay, where does Galio fit in? Who will he be ulting is kind of the big question, because that heroic entrance is such an iconic ability. You have to feel like if SKT can push up top lane, which you can almost plug and play, almost certainly against the Shen, Olaf can go pretty damn aggressive and have Ragnarok and also the heroic entrance to back up counter jungle.
That's exactly the thing that I think SKT would be banking on, is if Peanut can get ahead in this early game, as he has many times on the Olaf. His ability to run people down and having the damage reduction from a Galio ultimate as well as that backup makes him even scary.
Top side of the jungle is definitely going to be his friend, so he might actually start contesting. Maybe around second red spawn, when the Galio ultimate is available, he can play pretty Rambo, and it's not quite a Twisted Fate from the mid lane when it comes to backup, but the heroic entrance is right up there with it.
Yeah, just a reminder, Olaf gets a lot more attack speed the lower he is on health, so that's why Peanut went so low on blue buff and is staying low. It's a bit of a mind game as far as arrogance goes with the Olaf, staying low and not thinking you're going to get counter jungle.
But it is also one of those things where you give over a bit of information about jungle pathing on your Olaf, because it's pretty predictable for an Olaf to start blue, even if it's not necessarily the most obvious path. It's not likely to be a Raptor start with the Olaf, it's likely to be blue. So even though G2 haven't put down deep vision, you can kind of make an educated guess just from the draft of Olaf.
Well, just looking at the minimap right now, Trick is going to go ahead and finish off this blue. Looks like he's backing up towards a different camp, so a lot of early jungle farming so far. Other than that, those sidelines for SKT pushed right up. So Peanut's kind of getting covered here if he is kind of farming it out a little more. Perkz does have some traction here in mid lane. Trick might be looking for something here.
I mean, Kennen's strong laning phase is actually more related to the Hurricane and, of course, laning against melee champions in top than in the bot lane. When we had Kennen as an AD carry many moons ago, he had longer attack range, so his actual laning phase is actually pretty static. He doesn't have AoE, really. He's not going to be diving into the minion wave to clear with an EW. No lightning rushes offensively, so he's actually going to be pushed in by Twitch, which is a very strange scenario.
Exactly. Twitch and Lulu can wave clear fairly well. Kennen not matching Twitch, whereas Lulu more likely to match Karma. That's why that lane can be pushing. Not to mention, Bang & Wolf just play more forward in their lane by style than G2 have this tournament.
I'd argue that if you think of any meta AD carry, even Ezreal, Kennen probably pushes less than Ezreal because it doesn't have the long-range auto attack and attack speed. The Mystic Shot is the trades are looking pretty good for SKT, and Peanut is around bot.
Yeah, Ignite for Wolf as well, so this lane could get aggressive very quickly. Missy and Vent holding onto their summoners. Peanut looking for a recall, does cancel it. No one going in just yet.
Yeah, notice how Peanut saved his smites for the latter half of his jungle clear, so he was then full health in order to go to the river. He was mainly just sitting there in case Trick was there for a counter gank. A little disappointed that actually he was there, because Trick had just been in that brush about 20 seconds prior, and it's very rare for a player to re-gank a spot in 20 seconds after doing a clear like that, but didn't lose much time and was generally there for safety, so a fairly SKT style play, taking a very small negative play for preventing a larger one.
Faker takes not the best trade. We have a bit of breathing room in the game as the jungle's kind of recalled. I want to talk a little bit about Twitch, because we talked about Bang being very much favoring the Twitch ever since the final. That was the first time he had taken out this season. One of the reasons why I think SKT is that much better with Twitch than basically any team in the world is even in their losses, which game there was only one this tournament, and the early games where they've been a bit wayward, SKT always have jungle pressure. It feels like even when they're 5,000 gold behind, they're trying to pressure in, steal away jungle camps. It never feels like SKT are only dealing with the dregs of a single Raptor camp, for example. They're always able to push stuff up, and whenever you have map control, which for SKT feels like 85% of the time, the threat of the ambush, how aggressive you can play and how much you have to respect around a Twitch, not even taking into account the ultimate and the late game team fighting, makes Twitch just that much more of a headache to deal with.
And to add a little bit to that as well, Huni and Faker are such threatening soul laners that apply so much pressure. Twitch, when he's at his worst, is getting focused and camped and resources are going to shut him down. But if you do that against SKT, that means you're no longer committing resources to shutting down Huni or Faker, and then they will generally thrive in the solo lanes.
Well, having a look right now, Perkz actually doing a nice job getting aggressive in the face of Faker, was consistently pushing him back into that turret. Faker has back now, should have time as he picks up the lost chapter to get back to the wave, but Perkz hits level 6, he's going to try and shove it out. We'll get it back there as well as expect. Launch on the Huni, bit of damage back there, but a nice Justice Punch into the Winds of War. Just trading back and forth. I don't expect too much to happen here in this 1v1.
Yeah, but I do have to credit Expect right here, actually having a slight minion advantage over Huni. He did expend his teleport to get it, but he'll get back his global presence at level 6. And in a lane where Shen is completely outpushed. It is good to not be denied CS and now has itemized some magic resist to make it difficult to push him out of.
It sounds like a weird scenario to talk about, but the skill of last hitting now that the nerfs have come through to the Q specifically on Shen when it comes to minions. Not talking about the pushing war that we know Galio will win. The last hit's irrelevant because at the end of the day, on the Galio, you're a bit like a Victor when you get Hex Score. You're kind of eating the wave, and you're not always going to get everything. You're going to get the backline minions. You might miss out on some others, so it's very much about trying to push in as Faker.
The worry here is whether or not he can roam. Faker's going to ult in, and so is Galio.
Give her a try. No, doesn't get it point blank. Perks doesn't pull the trigger on the ulti, though. Respects the flash from Faker, but lives the all in. Oh, ulti's back. Perks looking for the kill. Gets it down, but here's Galio and Peanut surfing in as well. SKT commit a lot there, but Perks gets out easily.
Yeah, Perks did very well in that instance. He didn't get hit by all of Faker's spells in the all-in because that was kind of the strategy, is Ahri deliver the Galio to the Orianna. That didn't happen, and then to add insult to injury to SKT, Huni had to ult defensively, so that hurts both of their soul lanes. Look at this, G2 actually outlaning both Faker and Huni early on.
I mean, whenever you pile in resources and get no gain, that is net gain to the enemy team, when in this case is G2, so big for them as already does profit from the fact that a control ward was put down. So they do have that top side control we were talking about. You know, halving around top, but not realistically looking for a turret dive. But yeah, SKT, they have been largely keeping it simple, but the execution does go wayward on that.
Yeah, and unless Huni can poke down Expect, that dive is actually really difficult. The auto attack blocking that Shen can do by pressing his W really limits the Olaf's diving potential unless they send 3 people up there. So actually a very controlled early game, all things considered, for G2.
That's why really the strategy for SKT, I think, is to control the enemy topside jungle like we mentioned, because Galio's going to auto push, it's going to miss minions like we've already noticed. Very new into the meta, very difficult and haphazard to get the auto attack in when you're largely under turret anyway. So it's really on Olaf to profit from the fact that top lane will be perma-pushed into Shen's turret.
And we've seen a little bit of that already. Cooney moving up, getting wards deep into that side of the jungle. Peanut did steal away the red as well, so you can kind of see where SKT are putting a lot of their pressure. Other than that, though, CS lead looking great for Perks in the mid lane, actually 20 up on Faker right now, and no first blood given just yet. Gold nice and even. G2 happy to play a nice controlled early game and looking strong here. Might even get something. Actually, Trick jumping on a Faker. Faker trying to get out, but Perks going to follow through. The ult procced. Bang here as well, though. Faker taking a lot of damage, but G2 so much respect. There's Bangman. Here's the TP down as well. Peanut also getting in, but Ben trying to start him up. Good two-man shockwave. Gets on the bank, but it's not quite enough damage. But flashed up for Huni, gets a 4-man taunt. I think it might have been all of them. There's a little multi. First blood's down already, and then chasing it on for Trick. Wolf getting low as Ben. Tries to chase him out. Expect. Gets a kill back, but Trick does go down to Galio. Huni now caught out 1v3 versus the rest of G2. Can he get out of this one? He doesn't have his ultimate. He's going to get stunned by Sven. He needs to try and run out, but a good block on the Justice Punch. Damage is massive, though. Galio doing so much in the early stages, but I think it's enough. There's a taunt. Sven gets another kill.
How was Galio already a raid boss when it comes to tankiness? The snipe away to get the second kill as well. Huni's Galio yesterday was monstrous against TSM, and the lead he's got already after a bit of a haphazard laning phase is going to really reward SKT.
Yeah, timing on the teleport gives him the 2 kills, but G2 was able to get 2 over, so we were nearly in a standstill before that, and we're mostly in a standstill after. We're going to watch this one more time, though. The big thing is Bang's sneakiness getting in the lane here, because you start the fight by chucking Faker low. I was actually expecting a Shockwave early on to try and catch Faker, but they're respecting his flash. They don't want to blow Shockwave onto nothing, but it's Bang who surprises them, and then Perks without summer spells can be run down.
I really respect them for actually pulling off, expecting Bang to come in, but Huni's teleport, and then getting basically everyone on the taunt into the Wild Growth. No one has health bar or really resources to follow up on it, so it is very much a solo mission, so it's actually relevant that Huni snipes away the second kill. Otherwise, SKT would have traded down in this scenario.
Well, bit of early action, but teams kind of in a whitewash. SKT technically up on goal, but 500 isn't too much here. Drake, the Mountain Drake's still up, and of course Towers feeling pretty healthy on both sides, so everyone just chilling out for now. First exchange, though, very neutral.
Yeah, and I do want to point out Huni's itemization on Galio here. I feel like his item choices are actually almost always correct on any champion he plays. He's played 2 Galio games before, and in those games he's built Ninja Tabi, Sunfire Cape, Iceborne Gauntlets into Thornmail. And those are games where he's dealing with a lot of physical damage threats. Here, even though Kennen will do physical damage, it's a lot more magic damage, and the only real physical damage is from an assassination character who's never going to be hitting him. So he's going Spirit Visage first, and most likely Mercury treads after that one. I really love the choice.
Bagoon again, 2v2 starting. Shotgun hits Peanut, but he holds through it. Now Trick caught out of position, just has to run him down and try and get a sniper. Faker gets the kill. First 2v2 win, SKT.
Yeah, really close skirmish there, able to back away in the bot lane. Also some trading, but trading up is SKT. This time Faker does actually hit the skill shot to pick up his first kill of the game. The Orianna Shockwave, he really didn't contribute much, just a DPS onto the Olaf because the ult was already popped.
Yeah, and there's much more tankiness on the side of SKT, not to mention in skirmishes like that, the Ignite can actually turn the tides when the levels are very close. So notice how Faker jumps in, doesn't even get both parts of his Q, and misses his charm. So that's why G2 feel pretty confident, but they didn't quite focus right. And now Perkz is without Summer Spell.
Trying it again, Perkz trying to get back to his tower, but he's got no chance. Faker nails that charm and gets the kill.
Yeah, first charm he hits, but of course got the previous kill. Now that really tilting strategy of having to walk to lane, the walk of shame, the second time after you die, after a repeated gank, and Faker pushes up. Trick's taking a bit of free damage.
Another charm.
Might look to dive. No, not yet. Just damming on the turret. Great sniper.
One
more. Peter lines it up, takes down Trick.
The Lee Sin mechanics coming into the fore on the cube, but Trick didn't need to walk up. We've seen too many junglers this tournament get disrespectful walking up to line skill shots, and Trick plays the ultimate price.
Situation where you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. He backs away, they give away first turret to Faker, but because he could not dodge the Qs from Peanut or the charm from Faker, he falls. So gets outplayed right there, and that's an 0-3-0 hazard.
And now you have to adjust your emotions because G2 were playing very well through their mid lane, but 2 deaths and the turret going down when they were behind the goal to bot lane.
2v2 going to be a 3v2 right now. Here's Expect with the stand tonight. Look at the whoop and a great knock up there. He's going to deny that now. Bang turns around but gets exhausted and stunned.
Damn.
Wolf talks about it's hard for supports to make highlight plays. That's about as highlight as you get on Lulu. Interrupting Expect mid-taunt.
Oh no. This just feels so bad for the mid laner. Peanut's going to run Perkz down with the ultimate ticking away. Actually ulti there by Perkz, but it's just not enough. Perkz, no tower to get to. Here comes Galio. Peanut, low on mana, might actually save him, but Huni is going to chase it. He's got flash. Perkz going to have to go towards absolutely no one. Teammate's not there, but might just run away far enough as the blast cone should get him out.
But Trick walks into a Galio.
He's a charm now as well. That's a mistake. Just as much for the knockup. Gets out, but Faker's got more than enough dashes for that one.
Trick's not really acceptable to die in that manner. Back to back, you have to say largely. Perkz did so much work. Sidestepping skill shots will get out, but his jungler just sweetens the engage for SKT.
Yeah, about to give Perkz credit for dodging those axes at close range, which he deserves, but then Trick just throws it all away. By trying to walk straight into a Galio when his mid laner was nowhere to support.
Yeah, 0-4 and 0 stat line for 13 minutes. I mean, these players have very different stat lines. They've been playing different styles of champions, so the DPM stats that, for example, are floating around are misleading, but Peanut has been on the top, and it's another one of these wayward early games for Trick.
Yeah, unfortunately for Trick, he falls towards the bottom of almost every statistical jungle category in this tournament. Low kills, low damage, low KDA as well. But watching this one,
Why? Why does he walk up?
he's trying to get a good trade, but he's just not necessarily paying attention to the map. They try to go on Bang once again.
Bottom again, 2v2 starting, Bang low. Here's Bench trying to do the damage. He already got Polymorph. They're going to try to back around that damage. Disgusting as there's one for SKT. Middy might make it a second as Wolf is looking for the slow. Clutch Kittlelands gets it. Now going to lay the autos in. As Trick down here to try and turn it around. Middy grabs the flash, but here's Perkz down as well. Flash out from Bang is TP'd up from SKT. Peanut forces Perkz flash on the other side as G2 back towards her outer tower. Peanut, is he going for a dive here? G2 getting real far back.
Now it feels like every lane on the map is collapsing for G2. The mid lane was what was the bastion of hope. The 2 ganks and then the turret going down really removed that. Now Orianna will be roamed on very comfortably by Faker. You know, so little Expect can do in the bot lane, and even in the top lane, sorry, and bot lane is already also feeling the brunt of the pain.
And these are the disaster early games you hope to avoid. Expect was holding up in the top lane for quite a while, but Huni has made such a large impact on the rest of the map. Since then, you're seeing some of the advantage, and also outplays by pretty much everyone else on the SKT lineup.
And that's kind of been the thing for SKT this tournament, has been the casual sidesteps on skill shots that we don't necessarily see with any regularity from other teams. The interrupt from the wild growth also. So we're going to see a replay. This was once again G2 opting. They wanted to have a pressure point. They wanted to be winning in at least a single lane, but Bang turns around. We know what Lulu can do, and a crit comes through from just the Brawler's glove, and that cements the first kill.
Yeah, even though G2 were the ones to engage that, they weren't even close to being able to win that fight. So that was definitely one of those situations where they really felt the need to make a play, and I think we're hoping they could catch Bang without Wolf there. But Wolf was in Fog of War, I believe, and surprised them.
And now it feels like we kind of have to take a step back, because we have to remember that, okay, G2 probably penciled in this game as a loss. SKT came in heavy favorites. To me, the real question is, can G2 stabilize the rest of the game? Even in a loss, they cannot have a scenario where Trick dies another 5 times in the next 10 minutes. They cannot have a scenario where lanes are just trying to make individual plays and lose sight, because they have a must-win game coming later in the day, and its stabilization, even if the result won't stabilize, is as necessary for G2, given the context of the tournament.
Well, not looking great so far. 7,000 gold up for SKT and 4 turrets to nothing. I think Perkz has to feel so frustrated because Ari, despite being behind, has made so many other plays. I mean, Faker's Ari is pretty good when you have Peanut as your jungle backing you up and Huni as your Galio coming down from top lane. Stuff like this happens where Huni can expect the trading and expect he's not winning.
He's got no pressure. There's nothing he can do to push up, and of course the lanes have kind of disintegrated already, so Bang is there looking for a kill anyway. There's no good decisions left, really, for anyone on the side of G2. It's just what SKT leave up to them while they make plays around the map.
Yeah, and is this what SKT looks like when they're actually angry? Because they did drop that one game, and this is now a 7,000 gold lead at 17 minutes, one of the biggest in the entire tournament. Peanut, in particular, continues to just add to his stat line. As far as stats within the first 15 minutes of the game, Peanut has only died a single time this tournament and now has 28 kills in those, or sorry, 25 kills in that moment. So just incredible stats.
And we can even widen that stat line, Jack. He has 48 kills now in the tournament, most of any player in the group stage, and he has 10 deaths, only 10 deaths, and now coming up to 9 games. He has the least deaths and the most kills. It's just insanity from the jungle, a role where often you might be second or third most deaths on the team.
The SKT stealing away the red buff. I did notice the Mountain Drake is still up, and that's just how much SKT have been playing in these skirmishes. No one's going towards the Drake. SKT, we're taking the towers without them. We don't need it.
Yeah, and another thing that's a little surprising to many about SKT in this tournament is how low their ward numbers are as Faker gets jumped on clearing a ward.
It's okay, Faker just use the ult, he gets out.
Yeah, is how low their ward numbers are, but I do want to point out their trinket choices. In almost every single game, Faker is going sweeper. Almost no other mid laners are going sweeper, and as a result of that, his wards are extremely low. But also, he's not buying that many control wards. You can see he's sitting on his refillable potion this late in the game. You can argue that SKT is so pushed up on the map so often and recalling so infrequently that they're just buying fewer control wards, but also they're almost always with triple sweeper because the name of the game is denying vision rather than acquiring it because they're human wards later in the game.
I mean, what was our storyline for Peanut in 2016 on the Rocks Tigers? The battle ward. He was warding by being in the face of the enemy jungle. Well, they got about 5 battle wards, it feels like, right now for SKT, so they have at least been afforded to be a lot more conservative with their ward usage, which means all that gold lead, already around 8,000 is put into damage, and that's why it's time for skirmishes at any point.
Well, G2 hoping for something optimistic perhaps in the top lane. 3 people just sitting in that middle brush in the top lane, but Wolf getting some wards done. I think hitting the plant, making sure they have enough vision. And G2 might be here for a long time, hoping a customer comes through, but can hit the recall button and not get anything out of the play.
SKT doesn't need to go there. You know, they don't need to go there. They have some information about what brushes will cross, so they may have an idea what side of the map the enemy is on, and that's why you can see Faker already popping the sweeper, already shooting his Q through brush, because why give over anything? That's what they were probably criticized for so much yesterday, was what they gave away, and today was about tightening the fundamentals going into the bracket stage.
Yeah, they also had the buddy system right there. Wolf was hanging just far enough back, and that's kind of what he was doing in the bottom lane with Bang there that allowed him to turn the 2v2.
Well,
here we go though.
Play starting stage rendered on this November. Faker looking for the 1v1, going to be a 2v1. No, 3v2. SKT, of course, there first as Middy's going to join and try and save the teammates. Perk, the Shockwave barely gets Wolf, and Spence just gets annihilated by Peanut, the wild growth, keeping alive through everything else in G2.
Bang's waiting.
Going wrong, and here's Bang. Monster flank here from the Twitch. Expect does get the taunt down as Perkz does take out Wolf on the other end, but Bang's firing away, looking for Middy, but here comes Trick back. I think a little too far forward, does go down the Trick. Now Bang is dead as well. G2 grinding some kills. SK2's aggression will cost them. Peter turns to fight, but he's dead also.
Homer will definitely leave this game with at least one replay he wants to draw his charges' attention to. Very sloppy play, given that Galio clearly was not going to be grouping it. G2's actually going to stop Baron.
Yeah, it's do or die for them. It's 20 minutes. They want to do Baron. They just killed 4 people. They're still down 7,000 gold, and there is a very big Galio about to disrupt this.
That is not the teleport I expected, but Sven's actually bottom lane, can't join the 4v1
G2
right
really
now.
want to try and get it in any way possible, but Huni is going to disrupt.
We're going to take down Perks. G2 have to pull off Baron, and Huni with a great TP, despite not joining the fight, does get G2 off Baron.
Still a big mistake there by SKT, over pushing. They've had so much success taking odd-numbered fights when they're this far ahead. Let's watch this one more time. Sven is able to survive the initial onslaught, and that's key.
Yeah, they open up against the Shen ultimate, but they had 2 people coming in and also the Twitch ready for stealth. So you understand the start. Sven is delayed, and you're like, okay, SKT have a big gold lead. This is fine. Bang sets up for an engage, but actually gets very low value. So it comes out of stealth, starts the ultimate, expects taunt hadn't been used. It's used effectively, and look at how many auto attacks Bang loses out on. He actually puts out relatively little damage in this fight.
Yeah, exactly. Bang was hoping for the amazing flank behind them, but G2 actually pushed up beyond that point. If Bang opens up in a different position in this fight, I feel like SKT actually wins it if he opens up on Perks' Orianna, but he chose an area very close to Shen, didn't expect to still have taunt, and he pays the price.
And it's one of those also little situations where to be a fly on the wall on White Huni never teleported, because you'd have to imagine he got a call from his team to just take the turret, don't worry about it, we'll get out, or we'll trade up. Either way, a call somewhere along the line seemed to be wrong, even though he did get the bot lane objective.
Things at it again. Ulti going to be procced on Sven. Perks here to try and protect him. Too much damage. Burns there for the poison. Bang. Yet another one.
Well, Snowball looks like when you have the extra
Twitch.
items.
Running in again. SKT looking for a tower dive. Actually, Perks no flash. Does shock with on a faker. I'm going to miss, but Peanut's going to run for it. Ragnarok will not be stopped. There's a shutdown.
You're afforded to make mistakes like SK Telecom did 3 minutes ago. When you have an early game like SK Telecom did in this game, they can get away with mistakes. Will they be able to do in the bracket stage? That part is up for debate, but given this early game, they're still going to be comfortably in the league. Almost 10,000 gold.
Absolutely insane here for SKT, and that Bang's Twitch again getting aggressive. Sure, it cost him in the last exchange, but SKT's control just serving him so well, and he's a 23-minute Baron.
And I love the vision toggle because, again, you see the pressure that's on because they also have to deal with the fact that Twitch has stealth. There's so many things to respect, and they have so little map control.
And Trick just had to jump away over a further wall while they still don't have vision of this Baron. He's back in, though. Would actually have a chance to steal with that vision.
Oh, not quite there. Trick needs to get back in, but this mite's already down, and now Trick's just caught out of position. Faker almost with the ulti ready to chase SKT. How far do they want to go? Faker, instant shove, takes down Trick, and they get a pick for their trouble after the Baron is Bang. Still chasing, wants revenge on Mythy perhaps after the last exchange. No Shen around this time. Mythy running back towards his teammates.
And they're going to take this quick trip back to the base and maybe try and prep themselves for a final push. 1-3-1, they have the Galio that can join the other lane if they decide to dive. This size of gold lead at 24 minutes you actually don't often see, so SKT going to try and push this
And
back.
you can't even say words like the outscale word or anything for the side of G2. It is Kennen 80 carry. We did scrutinize the comp when they went for the Shen last pick, saying, well, in the mid game it could be oppressive if somehow Shen is massively ahead, if Kennen's massively ahead. But that was literally the only real win condition, barring catastrophic mistakes, that you just aren't really assigned to SKT.
Exactly, and the bot lane Kennen is still about the split push. It's just a different way of trying to get there instead of throwing him in the top lane. And when you fall that far behind in the early and mid game, you just never have the opportunity to set up the split push and never get an advantage in any of the side lanes.
And in general, just the amount of time SKT are out on this map, these are long shifts for these boys. But just putting in overtime and Bang stealthing forward again. He's like, got actually no team behind him, and he's still confident going in, maybe looking for a pick. Actually opens up on a Perks. Faker on the other side hoping they take the bait, not this time.
It was really fun watching Bang's movements because it felt like any two was golden. He was, when they saw the third person roll in, he was like, okay, maybe I'm going to step back. But this is the same Twitch we saw in the grand final, walking up to a Malzahar in a mid lane and being like, well, I'm going to be fine. I got QSS. I'm going to get a double kill. And when you're that far ahead on Twitch, it's why teams have been banning away the Twitch, because map control plus something like this, a hyper carry that can come from stealth, is just the biggest headache ever for G2.
Well, pressure continues. Peanut just slaying people. Stage United. It's not quite going to be enough. Peanut barely lives up. Baker just nails Bang with a Q. Here's Galio now going to knock up Expect. Appeal for the rest of the team. SKT might turn it back around. Knock up onto Expect. He flashes out. G2 still defending, but SKT playing with style and so much aggression.
Yeah, I mean, Peanut just beast modes right in there onto Sven.
It feels unfair when Peanut's this far ahead just running at your carries. I mean, what can you do? They have a Shen ulti, and it's still not even close to enough with Faker there.
And it's on at the Olaf. They targeted him so hard, and yet he still found comfort on a pick he hadn't played all year. SKT want to finally break the base.
That's broken. Bottom in, give it a turret down. Bottom in here will follow shortly. G2 running back towards their fountain, hoping something happens. But SKT still complete control. Will maybe end the game before the next Baron spawns.
Yeah, and I mean, Pastry Time, you asked what can G2 do? And I'll say play for late game, but that's the next game. TSM is the late game at this point because they know that their way in, there's still ways into the backstage with the victory over TSM.
Ooh,
so.
Flash my team alive, no back flashes forward! I think it's gonna cost him his life. Bang! Bit silly, Trickle taken down.
I saw your finger wave there, Pastry Time. We were right there with you. Unnecessary mistake, but again, not going to be consequential. You'd have to imagine the context of the fight. Peanut's 2 levels up on the enemy AD carry, who's levels up on the mid laner as well for the majority of this game. Clean up the kill. Peanut gets out.
I am surprised that Sven waited so long to flash. Peanut was going to have to take time to clear onto him. The taunt would still technically be able to reach the Olaf.
Speaking of Olaf, this is the replay, right? Peanut at it again here. Actually, 1v3 running away. Good shockwave there after the Ragnarok wears off. Peanut goes down and says, all right, starting to get a little bit sloppy.
Yeah, they're just having fun, it feels like, at this point, SKT. It's reminding us of SKT versus the Gigabyte Marines first round match where they opted into a death match because they could. You can say, though, that G2 picking up these kills is going to be raising spirits. Just picking up a kill when you're on this stage, when you know that your biggest task is ahead, it is that match against TSM. Picking up kills on the names that you know and love is big for the G2 members because they need any semblance of confidence. And remember, they are 0-3 if you include the 2 games from yesterday in a row, absolutely. And they really need to pick up. It's a must-win game later, so any sort of steadying influences from inside the game are welcomed, given that, again, we still aren't really crediting them with a chance to come back 12,000 gold behind.
It definitely depends on the team, the way they can recover from victory and the ways they would preferably lose, right? Because we actually had a pretty big discussion about this. Ow. Man. In the catcher pit, and I think there were very varying opinions about, well, you'd actually rather win fast. You really don't want to be winning and then lose because then you're going to be more tilted after the loss. But so much of it will depend on the individual.
If Perks had off there, that would have been sick, but he dies instead to Faker. Just dashes forward. I was smelling a play there for Perks, but not a mind reader, and Bang just playing so far up with this round.
Yeah, they're not playing 3 lanes. Of course, the super minions are pushing in bot. They just want to break the base in a second spot. SKT just want to finally put the icing on the cake, which is the victory in this game.
Exactly. We also have to note a win walks SKT as the number 1 seed.
Surprise, Peanuts in again. Here's the Galio ultimate to follow through, but that is diving through. Quite on 3 men there, and the ultimate from Zen. I don't think he's going to cut it. Huni still chasing him down. There's a couple dead already. 2 fall for G2 as expect. Is it going to be the next target? Huni drops to the fountain, gets the taunt back down as well. Faker still kiting forward, just skirting around the fountain laser. Expect flushes back into his own fountain just to not die.
I don't think you ever heard those words played by Blade Pastry Time, but that's what had to happen. They're waiting for the minion wave. They're looking to finish the game. SKT are in rare form.
Game looking to go down before the next Baron spawns. Got about a minute to do it. Faker finds Perks to lead him off the map. It's the right next to turret's gonna fall. Faker looks for a second time, doesn't get it onto Mindy, but Peanut and Wolf are doing the business they need to do. Huni zoning them away. The next is exposed, and SKT dominate G2 to lock in first.
In under 30 minutes with just the 1 Baron spawn. They didn't even look a little bit sloppy in that victory towards the end, but that's just the expectations SKT has set for themselves and the fans. Now 8-1 in the MSI group stage.